Hi, this is Chuck Blocks. I'm probably known better as Chuck Allen to most people in this area. But our guest today is Don Miners from Eitzen, Minnesota, and his brother Dale are with us. This is in conjunction with the Allamakee Historical Society and Genealogy Society and the Historical Society as well for Allamakee County. And Don, you're from Eitzen, correct?
Well, I am consider myself from Eitzen. I do live in Caledonia, though, now.
Okay, all right. And age?
I'm going to be 92 in 2 weeks. Right now, I'm 91.
And how about your little brother there?
Well, he's going to be only 84.
Oh, man.
But he's going on.
Not going to be 85 to 50.
He's going to go on 85.
Okay, and Don, where were you born and when?
I was born in Union City Township in February 3, 1930.
All right. And parents and church and so forth?
My parents are Elmer and Flora Miners, and we belong to the St. Luke's United Church of Christ in Eitzen.
Okay, and then how many siblings altogether?
Well, there's 5 of us. My older brother, Burdell, passed away 3 years ago. Myself, I have a sister, Grace, and a brother, Dale, who is with me. And we have a younger brother, Dean, that passed away in an automobile
40 years ago.
40 years ago
okay.
already, yeah.
All right. And I understand that you went to a one-room school up in Harmony.
Yes, we did, yeah.
Okay. Tell us a little about that, and I think we have some pictures to go along with that.
Oh, yeah.
But tell us about your Harmony school.
Well, I started Harmony School then when I was 5 years old. I guess those years everybody went to school started school when they were 5. And we had about a mile or a little better to go to school. At that time, we generally always walked, and I guess the school was full, and we enjoyed the recess, and it was fun.
How many students in that building?
Well, when I went to school, I don't remember just how many. What would you think? Maybe about 18
okay.
15 to 18.
And those years during the wintertime, when it's cold, there's a one potbelly stove kind of right in the middle.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we could put a pan of hot water on it and bring our soup or whatever and heat it up for lunch.
Yeah.
At noontime.
Is there a little hill you could slide downhill to school?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That was a big thing, sliding down the hill during the noon hour anyway.
Okay. Any electricity in the building at that time?
Not when I went to grade school, but when I was taught there then we had electricity.
Did you have hot meals?
No, just like Dale said,
Lunches,
they
okay.
were just warmed up on the stove, yeah.
You carried your own lunchbox.
You carried
Okay.
your own lunchbox.
And then, let me ask you, during December, did you have like a Christmas program for the kids, something like that?
Oh, yeah. We always had a big Christmas program, and we always had a big year-end picnic, and all the families came, and that was always the school was always kind of a big social event,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Now, a lot of country schools there were a polling place during elections. Was that the same with you?
Right. I think Harmony School. I think was it just Harmony School District? Other districts came to vote too. I'm not so sure. Other school districts voted there as well as the Harmony School.
Sure.
It was kind of the center of the Union City Township, I think.
Oh, okay.
And that's where the other school districts came there to vote too. Yeah.
Okay. And what year did you graduate then?
I graduated from grade school in 1943.
Okay, that would be the 8th grade then.
8th grade. Mm-hmm. Then high school 1947.
Okay, and then when did you start high school? Following the next year then?
Yeah, I started in 44 I started then in the fall of 43 in high school.
Okay, and let me ask you about extra activities in high school. What did you do?
Well, we got on the school bus, I think, right about 7 o'clock in the morning already, and hardly got to school by 9.
Wow, you had to ride a while then.
Oh, we were on the bus at least an hour going to school, or 2 hours almost. Yeah.
There weren't many buses those years.
No.
I think at that time there were about only 5 or 6 buses that went into Waukon. And then we got home. It was always late, and of course we always had a little chores to do. We didn't stay for any school activities after school.
Okay.
We rode the bus and back home again.
So you weren't on the football team or anything?
No,
like
I was not.
There was no way to get back home.
Right, exactly.
There were no activity buses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're 20 miles from town, so
Sure. Right.
and nobody had a car.
No.
How about school bus adventures? Did you ever go in the ditch or anything like that?
Well, I do remember one year when in high school where Walter Lindy was driving, and a car ahead of us had gone off into the ditch and couldn't see where it was blowing and snowing. He followed the tracks right down into the ditch, too. And then he walked to a neighbor's house, looked down the road their ways, and came back again. And he said, well, there's nobody living there. And one of the guys on the bus said, yeah, I could have told you that.
Okay, let's talk about some of your high school days and your teachers. Tell us about one of your teachers.
Well, I do remember Robert Hager, who was the first 2 years before I started normal training. Robert Hager was an agricultural instructor at that time. And I remember him quite well. And yes, I do remember my literature teacher, and you don't even remember their names right now anymore. But
Okay.
yeah.
Was Cora Rigemeyer around at that time?
Cora Rigemeyer was around too. I started the normal training school, the normal training course when I was a junior. So I didn't have her before that. And when I was a junior, I started normal training.
Now, as I understand it, when you were out of your school in Harmony, you went on to teaching?
Yeah, right.
Okay, right away.
Right away. I was
Right out of high school.
right out of high school.
Right out of the high school, okay.
Yeah.
I was 40. God, I got thinking about this. I was 17 years old, and of course, you're supposed to have been 18 years old to get a certificate. So they had to apply to the state, I guess, to get a special permit to let me start teaching at 17. So then I started at 17 and got. Some of my 7th and 8th grade boys were just as big as I was. And I had 3 boys that were in the 7th and 8th grade then. They were pretty good-sized lads. But we never had any trouble, so everything always went good.
That's
you were
good.
only about 4 years older than they were, too.
I was, about 4 years older than they were, yeah. And they were bigger, so just as big as I was anyway. And we got along real good.
Okay, getting back to Cora Rigemeyer, was she, I understand, the first ag teacher in Walk-On?
I understand she was. Yeah, I'm not sure, but
Wow.
But and I have no idea when normal training started in school in Walk-On. But I think that if I'm right, that the last class that graduated from normal training was in 1948. That's when they discontinued the normal training courses in high school.
Okay. And normal training, you're talking about the regular basic
Basic
classes.
yeah, methods and all this stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And let's see, the one room of the hospital, that was a scholarship at Upper Iowa then, or what was that? It says here, furnished one room of the hospital for Cora Rigemeyer.
She did that.
Yeah, Cora did that, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And, of course, a lot of people in Walk-On know Cora.
Oh, yeah.
They were she was our teacher. And when Cora passed away, her money was used to pave the streets out at Oakland Cemetery.
Oh,
Yes.
my.
There's very, very few people that didn't know Cora.
Yeah, yeah.
That's true.
Well, she was a native to Walk-On, was she not? Or did she? Yeah.
Yes, she was. And my wife had her, and my mother had her, but I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
I probably wouldn't have made it. So,
She was tough. You probably wouldn't have. You're right.
and she taught for, I think, 39 years
Oh, yeah.
in Walk-On.
I know that we have an aunt that went to her, but my mother was also a school teacher, but at that time, she didn't go to high school, but they went to what they call a normal school in Decorah, I believe. Am I
Sure,
right? You
yes.
got and a normal school. Two of my aunts, my mother and an aunt, went to Decorah for a normal school. So I don't know that was a 2-year course or a 4-year course, but
I think that was a 2-year course.
2-year course that they taught normal school.
Okay, let's go back to your teaching in the one-room school. That started in Harmony.
It started in Harmony.
And how old were you at that time?
17 when I started.
Did you have, was he a student?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
The first and best student.
Okay,
He always insisted on the best grades.
there you go. Okay, Don, how about your salary?
We started at $75 a month. And I think quite sure that's what it was. And then I think we paid for a lot of our own expenses. But I was lucky I could stay at home and board at home. And, of course, I had to help with the chores and everything
Sure.
in there, too, the farm work. And, yeah, it was $75 a month. And now they get more than that per hour, don't they?
Oh, yes. Who was in charge of, getting the furnace going in the morning.
Oh, the furnace going in the morning, I had to do that all. I lit the fire in the morning and always had a good pile of kindling to go with. But my brother Dale here usually split the kindling. Kids always brought the wood into the entryway, but we had always a good warm fire. But the entry was a good place. I remember everybody had their coats in there, and everybody kept their dinner buckets out there. Sometimes it got pretty cold in the entryways, and I think sometimes the food even froze in the lunch boxes.
But
Okay.
the waste paper basket was always emptied the next morning
Sure.
into the stove, and that was enough to get the fire going.
Get your fire going.
Yeah.
How long did you teach at Harmony, Don?
I taught there 3 years,
Okay.
and then in the fall of '50, I started teaching in Wheatland, the Wheatland School District.
Okay.
And at the time I was there, I was 20 years old. Of course, I was classified 1A, ready for service. And then I told the board then I would start, but when my draft notice came, I was going to enlist in the Air Force, which I did then.
Okay.
So in December of 1950, I enlisted in the Air Force.
Did you start out every day with a Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, God, I don't remember. I think we'd raise the flag every day, but I don't remember that. Do you, Dale?
Oh, I think we did.
I don't remember. I think we did, yeah.
You stand up and
Yes.
Yeah, I think we probably did.
I think that was just standard at that time. Didn't think nothing of it.
No.
Yeah.
That's what you did.
That's what you did, yes.
I remember putting up the flag.
Did you have a chalkboard, or was it a wooden board you wrote on?
We had a chalkboard.
Okay.
It was a pretty good board, and we used it a lot too, I think, and especially for arithmetic. And yeah,
How about your water?
about what?
Water.
Water was carried in from the neighbor. They always had one of those. I think they call it a small shotgun clan. And 2 of the students always went up to the neighbor to get water.
Sure.
If they kept horsing around too much and they spilled it, they had to go back and get it, refill it again.
Okay. How about, did you have a music class?
Music?
Yeah.
Well, we did have music, but mostly it was just listening to music, and we had songs we were supposed to sing with we had a, what do you call it, Victrola?
Record player.
Record player, yeah. And then the record player had the songs on them, and then we're supposed to sing along with the record player. Then everybody was supposed to do it on their own too, but well, my music was kind of a downfall. I wasn't a very good music teacher, I don't think.
What was the most and the fewest number of students you had at one time?
Oh, the fewest was probably almost 18, and the most I had was probably 22. We had some property in our school district that was kind of a lot different people moved in, like renters. They moved in for a while, and then they move on again. So I think we had 22 at one time, and about 18 was about normal.
Okay. What about outside of the guy sitting next to you, discipline problems?
I don't think I had any discipline problem at all. Everybody minded, and
Those days you listened, if a teacher said something, you respected the teacher.
yeah.
Sure.
And even in school, and during the time school was on, everybody stayed in their seats. And
If you didn't respect the teacher and your parents found out about it, you'd catch the Dickens at home and so you better behave.
Okay.
one of the nice things, if you had a student that needed some help at the desk with a math problem, you could ask one of the older students, would you go over and help so-and-so with the math problem? And it always worked very well.
Mm-hmm.
And they could get up and go over there and
Sure.
help that student.
Well, how about a library? Did you have a library in a little school?
We had a library, but that what was in there wasn't very well. It wasn't, but usually I wouldn't say every Saturday, most Saturdays I would take a trip to Waukon and to the county superintendent's office, and I would pick up maybe anywhere to half a dozen to a dozen books and have them at school then for a week or more, and then I'd bring them back the next week again.
Did you have any, what if someone didn't have their homework done?
Oh, those days, I don't think we did much homework.
Okay.
Do you remember much homework? I think back in Harmony School days, there weren't much homework at all.
Is it true that Cora Regemeyer put you in the library because you didn't have yours done in
she
high
did.
school?
That was when I went to high school, yeah.
Well, why didn't you tell us that without me having to ask you?
Yeah, well, I think it only happened once or twice. I didn't have my work done, and to the library you go. And
I never knew that.
Yeah, I did. And I was her favorite student.
Years ago, we had the Corn Day Parade, of course,
Yeah.
which was huge, and all the country schools had floats. Did you have a float?
No, I don't think that we ever did when I
Okay.
was teaching. No, I don't think. I remember having gone to Corn Days, but I don't remember that we ever taught. That we ever went to Corn Days. No.
Okay, all right. There was some tremendous crowds in Walk-On back in those
I
days.
can remember that there were, but I don't. But maybe years, like you said, when Mrs. Burke taught, you did, but
Then Tom would get the wagon out and he'd bring it up and we'd decorate with corn stalks and corn leaves and
Sure.
Yeah.
we'd pin corn husks all over our clothes and on our hats, and we were the Harmony Huskers.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah,
Mrs. Burke must have had a lot of good help.
I was her favorite student.
Well, during the fall, especially around Halloween, were you the victim of any vandalism at that time?
No, I think there might have been, a couple of times the toilets were tipped. But no, I don't, nothing vandalism, no.
Okay.
The directors would go out the next morning and erect the toilets again.
And I suppose, like the other schools around the area, you had ball games.
Oh, yeah. That was a big thing, ball games. And quite often we went to the Columbus School and had an afternoon with them, and we exchanged, played ball, our team against their team, and that was always fun and made a good afternoon out of it. And we always walked. I guess, did you go out down to Columbus?
No.
You never went. Down from Harmony to the Columbus School had to be almost 2 miles, I would think.
Oh, I suppose.
Yeah. We'd walk down and walk back, and the teachers would make some lemonade. And
Sure.
We played school ball against Clickwick. Is that what's down by by Hartley's? Is that Clickwick, George?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Mr. Gotti?
Who?
Gady.
Gady.
Mr. Gady.
Gady.
Excuse me.
Oh, Gady was the county superintendent at that time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he, every year he came around and walked into the school unexpectedly and hoped to see what he could find, I guess.
He was a county superintendent.
County superintendent, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know
which they don't have anymore, actually.
I no.
They all have school districts, yep.
Yeah. I don't have any idea how many school districts there were in the county at that time.
Okay. All right.
I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting to know it. I'm sure there must have been at least 50 school districts.
Yeah. Now, getting back to your teaching day, when you were finished with teaching, how about the draft for Korea and so forth? Were you involved in the draft, or does this go back to your Air Force enlistment days, or what?
The time I got to Wheatland School, I did tell the board I was classified 1A, and my friend and now my brother-in-law, Dean Bowman, was also there, and he had a brother-in-law that was the head recruiter in Des Moines for the Air Force, and he kind of knew when the draft notice was coming out. So the draft notice was coming out, and he called Dean, and he said, "You hike it down here to Des Moines right away because your draft notice is in the mail." Because at that time, you weren't supposed to enlist after you had your draft notice in the mailbox.
Okay.
So we made it down there, and I locked up the school and told us, the president, here's the key. And and then we drove to Des Moines, and that night we were on the train to San Antonio, Texas.
Enlisted in the Air Force.
In the Air Force.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. And later in life, how about your experience in the Air Force? How long were you in?
I was in there. We enlisted for 4 years.
Okay.
I spent about 2 years, or a little over 2 years, stateside, and then I had a notice to go to Frankfurt, Germany, and I was quite proud. I was going to Germany. I was real tickled about that. Got to Frankfurt, Germany. They handed me another set of orders. Further assigned to Wheelus Air Force Base in Tripoli, Libya.
Oh, wow.
So I spent my overseas time down in Tripoli, Libya.
Okay. You didn't run into any German Fräuleins over there, did you?
Not in Tripoli, Libya, no. Okay. I ran into some Fräuleins. You couldn't see them very well.
Okay. Okay, then later in life, you got involved in banking in Eitzen. Tell us about that.
Well, after I got out of the service, then I spent a little time at home, and then I went down to Cedar Rapids and worked for Wilson and Company down there for 4 or 5 years, I guess, from 55 to 60. So then there was a vacancy in the Eitzen State Bank that the fellow that had been working there was quitting. And so they called me and wanted me to, if I was interested in coming to the bank. And I had a good job in Wilson and Company. No, I wasn't that interested at all, and making good money then too. And finally, one of the directors called me and says, "You tell us what you have to have for salary, and then we'll make the decision." So I told them what I would come for, and they said, yeah, they'd pay that. And so I wound up in Eitzen. But the funny, they had to give the president of the bank that time, who was also working, had to get him a raise. So he got so he
You couldn't be making more than the president.
I shouldn't be making more than the president.
Right.
So they had to give him a little raise too, so that he could
Right.
even with me. But then so then I worked in the bank started in 1960. And you want to hear more about that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And then I started working there, and finally some of the older shareholders passed away, and then their shares came up for sale, and I would offer to buy them, and they usually willingly sold them too. And finally, at the end, it got to be where I had a pretty good hunk of shares, and finally I decided one day I was just going to write all the remaining shareholders a letter that if they were interested in selling, I was interested in buying. So yes, sure enough, I got more than 50% of the shareholders signed and said, yeah, they were willing to sell me their shares. So pretty soon I got owning more than 50% of the bank. Okay. And of course, then I was president.
Absolutely, you bet. And tell me about. Understand there was a couple robberies at Eitzen.
Well, yeah, it starts first with burglary. Burglary was burglary is something they happen at night and they break in. So they broke in the back window, and that was the old bank, and they had a acetylene torch and cut the lock off of the vault door, and got inside. And that time they rifled most of the safety deposit boxes. That was probably in about 1964. Mm-hmm. And then we moved into the new bank. I got to start thinking a little bit here. New bank in 72, I think. 72, and I don't know the years exactly, but we had 2 robberies in the new bank building then. And that was local walk-on guys that were mostly involved with that.
I think those were the 2 fellows they found in the car wash up here or something.
Yeah, could be, yeah.
But, okay, very exciting.
Yeah.
The first burglary, wasn't that called the cream can robbery?
Yeah, that was even before I was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
They brought water in milk cans when they had the torches to cool it or something.
Yeah, they drilled a hole into the. Of course, then they just had safes, so we didn't have a big vault then. But they had a safe, and they drilled a hole through the safe, and then they filled the safe with water, and then they cut out the lock. So that otherwise they would have burnt the money if they'd.
So they brought their own water.
They brought a cream can full of water on.
Cool the situation down a little bit.
Yeah, cool it down a little bit. Yeah.
Anything else you boys would like to add? We sure appreciate this.
No, I tell you, banking was been a good career for me. I enjoyed it, and I did well, and I guess for a little kick when back in the banking days were there, and. Mm-hmm. Eitzen was one of the only remaining banks that stayed an independently owned bank during that time. Most of the banks then got into trouble, consolidated with other banks.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And I got to give New Albin Bank to it. New Albin was my good friend down there, Ray Whalen. Yes. We got along real good, and so we both stayed independent banks during the hard banking times. And
sure.
It was a good career, and I enjoyed banking. I enjoyed teaching. I enjoyed my career with the Air Force,
good.
So I think I had a very good life.
Dale, do they still recognize him when he walks into the bank then, or?
Oh, I think so.
They pay attention? Yeah, okay, good. Well, Don and Dale Miners from Eitzen, thank you, fellas, for visiting with us.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Well, yeah.
It's been fun.
Life is fun.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Well, I've had a book here that called the Meyer Fam book, and we kind of wrote our own history along with it.
Okay.
And I ended it with "Life has been good."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Work hard and play hard, right?
Yeah,
there you go.
Right.
And the Allamakee Historical Society thanks you, gentlemen, too. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, we appreciate being
Pleasure
here.
being here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.